Today, I'm trying to sew this fleece jacket in 2 hours. Now, it's fall and Grandma needs a new fleece. I've made some modifications to this pattern and I think it'll sew up a little bit quicker. I'm excited to share those with you today. Now, I am working with McCall's 8143. I'm making this for Grandma and she really wears this fleece as a jacket. So she usually has on a shirt and then usually a sweater, and then she puts this on top when she gets cold. So the large is going to be fine. Now, if you don't know, my grandma is 98 years old. Here's a picture of us from Christmas when she got her Christmas fleece. And she loves to sew. She's like my biggest cheerleader. So I love to make things for her and sew together with her. So I have my pattern pieces all laid out. For the large, you need 1 7/8 yards. I just bought 2 yards. I got this for $7.99 a yard. This is the anti-pill fleece, which is a little bit better quality than the polar fleece. Grandma's going to be, wearing this and using it a lot. I want it to last, multiple launderings and that sort of thing. I am modifying this pattern in that I am putting in a full-length separating zipper. It is right over here. It is this pretty plum color to match the fabric. This is 24 inches. I think this one will work. I don't think I got 22. They didn't have it in a shorter length. So we're going to make this one work for our purposes. And then the big difference in the way that I put the pattern together is that I just cut a slit down the front. The front and the back and the collar are all cut on the fold. So that's super easy. And then, the sleeve. But it's fleece, so it's very forgiving. It is pretty fun to sew. I'm looking forward to making this, and all of my pattern pieces are cut out. I have my trusty little cube timer with me to get started. Now, I like to set it at 30-minute increments. That way I have like 4 breaks if I need them. And it also helps me keep track of time a little bit better. So I'm going to put this on 30 minutes. I'm going to pin all of my seams together that need to get sewn that are just straight seams. So I just like to sit down and do one thing at a time. And if I can get everything sewn, that's all the straight seams, that's just faster. Instead of, sewing the front and the back together, then going and sewing the sleeve together. And anyway, it's my process. So we'll see if that helps with this whole 2-hour challenge or not, but I think it will. It's just the way I usually sew, and I just think it makes things a little bit more efficient. I'm going to unpin the back and then pin it to the front so I can start doing that part of it. Now, I found that the hardest thing about the original pattern is putting in this half zip, because you have to like cut the hole out first and then do all these markings and then get the zipper all matched up. And it's a level 2. Is it a level 2? Yeah, it's a level 2 learn to sew McCall's pattern. And why they didn't just give you a separating zipper from the beginning is completely beyond me, because it would have just been so much easier. But I've made this modification and I think it works a lot better. All right, everything is all pinned and ready to go. Now I have my machine threaded. I have a Microtex needle in, which is good for fleece. They also make fleece needles, so if you want to use one of those, that is fine. Or because fleece is a knit, you can also use a ballpoint needle that you would sew regular knit fabric with. Now, the one thing to keep in mind with fleece is because it's thicker, it's a good idea to increase your stitch length. So I usually sew it at 2.5. I'm going to try it at a 3 because this isn't super bulky fleece, but I think that'll work. I'm also using a magnetic seam gauge just to kind of keep the fleece lined up. Since it is so thick, it kind of moves around a little bit, and it's just kind of easy to make sure. It's easy to get off track, so I try and make sure that I'm staying on the right line, sewing at 5/8 of an inch per the pattern instructions. So I've got the shoulder seams and the side seams all sewn up. With fleece, you can iron it if you want. Just make sure it's a very low iron. I'm just going to roll these seams open. This is one of those face massager things I got, and it works really well for rolling sleeve seams open, especially with fleece. So I'm just going to roll these shoulder seams real quick. The next step, and this is following with the pattern instructions, is to attach the collar, and we're just doing the outer layer of the collar. it's the one that you don't interface. Now, that's one of the steps I skip. I'm not interfacing this. And then let me double check that I'm sewing this to the correct side, because I've messed that up too many times. Right sides together, and the seam goes towards the inside, so that way it flips up and it looks pretty, and that'll look nice at the front. So I'm going to match up all my notches and then get this sewn in. The dot on the pattern, or the little triangle, should correspond with the side seam. I'm sewing from the collar side, and just pretty much the same as before. 5/8 of an inch seam using a stitch length of 3. Okay, collar is all done. I think that looks pretty. We're going to add the other collar to it, so it'll kind of be a stand collar. And if you're wondering, we are at 29 minutes, counting down to 30. So in 30 minutes, I have attached the front part of the collar, sewn the front and the back together. But I think that's pretty good. I'm feeling confident that I'll be able to do this in 2 hours for sure. Next step is to put the zipper in to the front. Before we do anything else with the collar, we need to get that zipper in. And I realized that I probably should have gotten the 26-inch zipper, not the 24-inch zipper. This one is not quite long enough to go all the way up to the dot on the collar. What I'm going to do instead, because I really don't want to run up to the store right now, is just put the zipper in lower. So I'm just going to put it right here at the neck seam. The collar will be open a little bit, and then that way I'll still have enough at the bottom to be able to finish the hem at about 1 inch, and then everything will match up at that end of the zipper. But if you're following along and you want to make this, go for the 26-inch separating zipper. I actually wrote a note on the back of my pattern, so if I make this again, I won't forget. So this is the part that is slightly tricky. So I'm going to line everything up and start pinning my zipper where it needs to be and making sure that I get it on the right side. But to just get started, we're just going to line this up. I am going to line up the top of the zipper pull with this top edge of my fleece up here, and then get it all pinned in place. You do need to put your zipper foot on your machines. I'm going to do that real quick, get that all lined up, and I'm going to take off my magnetic seam gauge because I don't need that right now. I'm going to be using the edge of the zipper teeth as a guide. The other thing you need to do, and I need to do right now, is move over my needle to the right side for, so that the teeth of the zipper are lined up against the presser foot, and then the needle needs to stitch down right next to the teeth. So if regular zippers kind of freak you out and you don't have the proper foot for an invisible zipper, try a separating zipper and get your confidence up, because they go in really easy and you can't really mess them up. It's not too complicated. So I'm going to start stitching this into place, making sure everything is lined up. So my zipper is all in, and it looks good. Happy with the way it works. I'm happy with my decision to just have the zipper pull stop at the top of the collar. So it's going to be right there, and then we'll make the collar in a second. And just going to repeat the process on the other side. The zipper tape should be towards the right side, outside edge of the garment. That'll help you. And then the teeth should be to the inside. And then once we flip, then everything lines up properly. Okay, so let's see if I did this right. This still just makes me a little bit nervous every time I do it. I guess at some point I'll be, have put in enough separating zippers that I don't stress. Oh, look, it's perfect. Yay! I'm always so happy when everything lines up the way it's supposed to. And I think that the pattern looks pretty on it too. This flower matching here, and then the green. I think Grandma's going to really like this. All right, so now that we have the zipper in, we're going to finish the collar. Is that what's next? I think that's what's next. We're going to finish the collar. We have, how long have I been doing this? About 45 minutes so far. So making good progress. I am going to go look at the directions real quick. I figured it out. So I'm going to be pinning the right sides of the collar to the outside right side of my jacket. I've got the top, put my timer back on. I've got the top all pinned together. I'm going to sew the top seam first, and then we're going to flip it, trim it, then flip it, and then go finish the front edge seam along the zipper. And oh, I need to change my presser foot to the correct one. And I need to move my needle back. Next step is to trim. So I'm going to trim out this top seam. You know, you can trim very close to the seam line and not have to worry about it pulling out. So now that that's all trimmed, I am going to probably just roll this real quick with my little face thing. Clementine was taking a nap earlier and just realized that I'm in here sewing. So fleece is her absolute favorite fabric. So of course she's going to be hanging out with us probably for the duration. And stop eating pin. Leave that alone. Come on, get down. Get down. Okay, sit on the chair. Next, I'm going to fold my collar over to the inside. And I'm going to fold this edge in because then we're going to stitch that. Basically what I'm going to do is just continue this line from the zipper up into this section of the collar, and then I'm going to trim it and flip it, and then we'll move on. All right, so you can see what I did here. I just made it, connected it, back tacked, and then made that, and we're going to trim this all out and then flip it so you can see what the collar looks like. Ugh, and that I did not do a good job on. So I'm going to rip this out real quick, and we'll be going into the second hour of sewing. All right, so I hit a teeny tiny snag. I am getting ready to start into the second hour of sewing, and what I've decided to do is just trim off this top piece of the zipper. That's kind of what was poking out, and you don't need it because, you know, the zipper's sewn in already, so it was just causing some extra problems by poking out. So I'm just going to restitch this real quick and then, okay, much better. It works. So let me go sew the other side. And all right, back to trimming again. I'm going to trim off these corners. This front edge was pretty narrow, but I'm going to go in and trim it out a little bit more. We're going to go back in once we flip the top collar towards the inside and understitch, or not understitch, but like connect it with some stitching in the ditch, and we'll do that from the right side. And okay, I'm ready to flip to the right side, and that looks really nice and neat. I need to go poke that, to poke my corner so it's nice and sharp, and that front edge looks really nice. So what I'm doing next is I'm going to be pinning this edge down, but from the side we're going to sew on. So stitching in the ditch just basically means that I'm going to sew into this seam, and so the stitches will be inside the seam, but what it's going to do is grab this side and of the inside of the collar and hold it in place. While I'm pinning this together, I remembered what I did differently that made a huge difference in the way that this looks as the finished product. So I'm going to go back in. I just unpinned everything I pinned because I remembered that if you sew this under stitch in the ditch first to attach this, sometimes the collar is lumpy. And what I did last time to prevent that from happening was doing some edge stitching or top stitching along this top seam to make sure that it's all flat and smooth before I connect it on the inside with the stitch in the ditch, because that way everything lines up better and you don't have to worry about your collar being wonky because it shifted while you were trying to sew this seam. And then later we'll go back in and do some edge stitching or top stitching here along the zipper to hold this little seam in place, but we're not quite there yet. It's got that little edge in there, and that's going to hold everything where it needs to be before I sew this. All right, so now I'm going to stitch in the ditch, and I'm just lining this up. If you have, different people have different methods of doing this, but for me, I just line it up and just start stitching and keep it in that stitch line, just inside that little seam in there. And if you do it right, you shouldn't be able to see it. It looks pretty good. And that's all attached. And now I'm going to go back in and trim that out. Moving on to sleeves, I have these pinned together, but I'm going to unpin them so that I can put in my row of stitching between the two dots going around that top edge. I'm going to switch my machine to basting. With this, I'm just going to put in one line of stitching because I've done this before and I know it fits in pretty well, so I'm not going to stress. Let me do the other side. Okay. Now I'm going to sew my sleeves up like I had originally pinned them. Got my sleeves all sewn, and now I'm going to put right sides together, but I'm going to be sewing from the inside. So I'm going to pin at the side seam and the notches first, and then I'm going to see how much I need to ease in that top part. So this top dot goes up against the top shoulder, matching the edges. Yeah, it does need to be pulled in a tiny bit. All right, let's see if I remember how to sew a sleeve, because this is always the challenge. I haven't done this in a while. Try not to resort back to my bad sleeve sewing after I made the video with Grandma sewing sleeves from, that was actually last September. We got it going pretty good, and she showed me how to do it, and then I made like several outfits with sleeves, and then kind of haven't done it in a while. So I think this is what we did, though, because she sewed it, but she showed me how to sew it, and I'd literally been sewing it wrong for years. So one sleeve in, one to go. I have 26 minutes left, so I am going to get moving because I really want to do this in 2 hours. So let's see if I can make that happen. I think I can make it happen. I think we're going to make it happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. We're going to be positive. So sleeves are in. I have 19 minutes left. I have to hem the bottom of the sleeves. I'm just going to fold those under an inch. I have to put in the hem. I'm just going to fold that under an inch. And then I needed to do some extra top stitching along the zipper. So I think I can make that happen. Yeah, we're down to 18 minutes now. So let me get out my seam gauge. Let me get rolling, because now it's really getting close. All right, sleeves are done. 14 minutes to go. I'm getting a little anxious. I have to say, this whole time business is rather stressful, but I think I'm going to get this done. So let me just fold that over. Okay, I'm going to go with 1.5 inches. I think that looks nice. Then there's a tiny little edge at the bottom of the zipper. So I went and picked up Grandma, and I told her that I have a surprise for her, and she's waiting in the living room. So I'm going to bring her in here, and we're going to get her reaction.
Are you filming?
Yeah, I'm filming, Grandma. It's okay. Just have a seat. Have a seat. I have a surprise for you.
You did not tell me. Look,
It's okay, Grandma. It's okay. Let me fix your mic. You look fine. Everyone's going to think you look fine, Grandma.
Well,
It's okay. All right, so I have a surprise for you. Okay, so open the bag.
Tony,
What do you think?
I think it's gorgeous.
So I thought you needed one for the fall, because the other one I made you so wintry.
So pretty.
Do you like it?
I
Yes?
love it, and I
Oh,
love you.
well, I love you too, Grandma. Okay, you want to try it on?
Of course,
Let's make sure it fits.
I. That's
I know you wear that one all the time, so now you can wear something fancy. What do you think?
and a purple zipper.
It has a purple zipper. That was the best color to match. Let me get your arm in. There we go. Okay. So what do you think? I don't have a mirror, but here, let me clip it. Let me clip the mic onto this so then you can hear your reaction. What do you think? Do you like it? How's it fit? Does it fit good?
It fits perfectly, and I absolutely love it.
Okay, good.
Of course,
Well, Chloe just took your chair.
it is so pretty.
Chloe's a little jealous that you got another fleece jacket and she doesn't have anything.
I'm beyond words.
I got you another present, Grandma. Clementine can't resist a bag.
I am totally and beyond words.
You like it?
Do I like it?
And it just got cold, Grandma. Well, sort of cold. It's like in the 80s here in Texas, but
It
that's
is so pretty. I can't even think of words to say.
well, I think it looks really nice on you. So how long?
The purple zipper, I love the purple zipper.
So how long?
I'm totally beyond words. You said, come over. You've been buying so many things, traveling around. I thought you had something else to show me. I not well, and I would have dressed a little better.
Okay, well that's all right, Grandma. No, but nobody expects you to be all dressed up for my videos.
Well,
So, Grandma, let me ask you this: how long do you think it took me to make this?
oh gosh, I would say 3.5 hours.
Actually, it took 2 hours and 5 minutes because I messed up the hem. Rookie mistake. I forgot to make sure that the hem was even on both ends before I started pinning it. So at that point in the video, I realized that it was about an inch on one side and an inch and a half on the other. And so once I folded everything, it was uneven. So I had to go back in, trim out the bottom of the hem and even it out. And then I went and sewed the hem. So that is what took like that little extra bit of time that, kept me from sewing it in 2 hours. But for that, I would have gotten it finished in 2 hours.
Look at this.
Well, no, because I
Look
fixed
at
it.
this construction. It is absolutely perfect.
I fixed it.
It's perfect.
Okay, good. I'm glad you like it. Grandma approves?
What do you mean? Do I like it? No, I just love it.
Speaking of loving, I've got another video coming up next. You totally want to check this out. I know you're going to love it as much as Grandma loves her fleece, and I'll see you over there.
Okay.